You are being called right now, and the strange thing is you already know it. There is a frequency moving through consciousness, gathering those who can hold what is coming. And if you are hearing these words, you are not here by accident. Something inside you recognized this moment before your mind could name it. This is not motivation. This is activation. Not everyone will feel what you are about to feel. Not everyone is meant to. But you have been moving toward this understanding your entire life, even when you thought you were lost. The 369,000 are not a mystery. They are a resonance. And you are not just part of that field. You are meant to stabilize it. What you are about to learn will not comfort you. It will align you. And alignment, not belief, is what shifts reality. Stay with me. If this frequency is landing in you, take a moment and comment below with this phrase: I am aligned with what is emerging. Let that declaration move through you not as hope, but as recognition. You are signaling to the field that you are ready to stop, pretending you do not feel this pull. You have heard the term before 369000, and immediately your mind reaches for hierarchy, exclusivity, spiritual competition, something outside yourself that you must prove worthy of. But here is what no one tells you. This is not about being chosen in the way you were taught. This is about resonance, frequency, alignment with a particular quality of consciousness that emerges not through effort but through surrender. The ones who carry this frequency do not announce it. They do not seek validation. In fact, most of them spent years wishing the responsibility would pass to someone else, because what they feel is not glory. It is weight. Sacred, necessary weight. Let me say this clearly so you stop searching outside yourself. Being part of the 369,000 is not about perfection. It never was. If flawlessness were the requirement, the field would be empty. What separates those who carry this frequency from those who do not is not moral superiority. It is energetic stability. These are people whose internal state no longer collapses under external pressure, whose yes means yes, and whose no does not waver when tested. They chose alignment even when it costs them relationships, comfort, approval, the very things most people spend their entire lives protecting. You know this already. You have felt it in your bones. The discomfort when you tried to fit into systems that made no sense, the restlessness in spaces that others called sacred but felt hollow to you. That was not rebellion. That was discernment. You were being tuned to recognize truth from noise, depth from performance, integrity from manipulation. And that tuning, that constant inner recalibration, it was not punishment. It was preparation. Because the 369,000 must be able to stand alone when necessary. Leadership, real leadership, begins in isolation. It begins when you stop needing the crowd to confirm what you already know. And let me dismantle another illusion right now. The 369,000 are not here to dominate, control, or judge. They are not spiritual enforcers. They are stabilizers, guides, protectors of frequency. Their authority does not come from titles, platforms, followers, or recognition. It comes from intimacy with the field itself, with the intelligence that moves through all things. That is why so many of you went through seasons where everything was stripped away: relationships, ambitions, distractions, identities you thought defined you. Not because you were being punished, but because you were being cleared. Your signal was being purified, so you could hear the frequency beneath the frequency. Here is what changes everything. The kind of leadership the field is calling for does not look like what you have been taught. It does not require loud declarations or aggressive certainty. It requires something far rarer: compassion forged in suffering, patience cultivated in delay, wisdom grown in silence. The 369,000 know what it feels like to be misunderstood, overlooked, dismissed, rejected. That experience is not accident. It is essential because you cannot guide without empathy. You cannot correct without humility. You cannot hold space for others, confusion if you have not sat in your own. There is also a purity associated with this frequency, but it is not the kind most people imagine. This is not physical purity, though that may be part of it for some. This is purity of intention, purity of motive, purity of loyalty to truth over comfort. The ones who resonate at this level are not double-minded. They do not serve the light when it is convenient and abandon it when it costs something. Their internal compass does not shift based on external pressure. And this is why the field can trust them. Not because they are strong in the way strength is sold to you, but because they are surrendered to something larger than survival. Some of you have resisted this knowing because you see your flaws too clearly. You look at your past and wonder how you could possibly be part of something this significant. Let me free you from that spiral. The intelligence that is moving through you already knows your weaknesses. It chose you with full awareness of your history, your fears, your limitations. What qualified you was never your record. It was your response. When life corrected you, you listened. When it broke you open, you did not close. When it asked you to let go, you obeyed even while grieving what was leaving. That willingness, that openness to being reshaped, that is what marks you. The 369,000 are also unified in spirit, even if they never meet in form. They recognize truth when it moves through them. They feel disturbance when deception rises. They are spiritually alert in ways that exhaust them because they cannot unsee what they see. That is why many of you sense shifts before they happen. You feel heaviness without explanation. You feel urgency without clear reason. This is not anxiety. This is your nervous system responding to changes in the field. This is spiritual awareness developing in real time. And it is uncomfortable because you are moving into a bandwidth most people are not yet accessing. Here is what you need to understand with absolute clarity. Not everyone who claims this frequency actually carries it. And not everyone who carries it knows they do. The field reveals identity in stages. First, it forms character. Then it reveals calling. If calling comes before character, ego destroys the vessel. Pride consumes the assignment. That is why so many of you were kept hidden, delayed, uncomfortable. You were not being withheld from your purpose. You were being protected until you could hold it without it distorting you. The ones who resonate at this level learn to submit their ego, their desires, their timeline to something larger. They stopped asking why me and started asking what now. That shift is not small. It is the difference between spiritual ambition and spiritual maturity. And maturity is what the field requires. These are people who will not panic when pressure rises, who will not compromise truth for applause, who will not collapse when systems fail. The field can trust them in crisis because they have already been tested in silence. If this is resonating deeply, and I mean deeply, not as concept but as recognition, it is because you are not discovering something new. You are remembering something eternal. The confusion you once felt is being replaced by clarity. The fear is being replaced by peace. And the calling that once felt overwhelming is beginning to feel familiar, like coming home to a part of yourself you forgot existed. This is who the 369,000 truly are. Not a mystery to chase, not a title to earn, but a responsibility to carry with humility, discipline, and unwavering alignment. And as we go deeper, you will understand even more clearly why you were not just included in this frequency, but prepared to anchor it for others. Let me go even further, because your system needs to hear this at a cellular level. The 369,000 are not driven by scarcity, by the fear of missing out, by the need to prove themselves worthy. They are moved by responsibility, by a pull that precedes thought. When the field speaks, something inside them responds before logic has time to interfere. That is not emotion. That is recognition at the level of essence. Spirit calling to spirit. Frequency aligning with frequency. You have wondered why you could never settle into shallow versions of truth. Why surface-level teachings left you starving. Why entertainment disguised as spirituality never satisfied the hunger inside you. That hunger was not dissatisfaction with the material. It was preparation for something deeper. The field was training your discernment to recognize weight, substance, resonance. The 369,000 are not entertained by noise. They are nourished by truth. And truth, real truth, does not perform. It settles. It lands. It holds. You were also taught restraint in ways that felt like punishment, but were actually precision training. You learned when to speak, and when silence was the wiser choice, when to act, and when waiting would reveal more. This balance did not come naturally. It was forged through mistakes, through corrections, through the kind of patience that only develops when you have no choice but to trust the timing you cannot see. The field was teaching you how to carry authority without aggression, confidence without arrogance, power without domination. And those distinctions matter more than you realize. If this is landing in you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you stay connected to this frequency. Understand this and let it settle all the way down. The world may never applaud you for what you carry. Heaven does not measure influence by visibility. Angels respond to alignment, not attention. The field entrusts power to those who will not misuse it, who will not weaponize it, who will not hoard it. That is why your journey looked slower, heavier, lonelier than what you watched others experience. You were not delayed. You were being refined at a depth that could not be rushed. So breathe into that. Let your shoulders drop. You were never behind. You were being prepared for something that required this exact path. You were not selected to lead by chance, by lottery, by random assignment. There has been a frequency moving through your field long before you had language for it. Long before you understood what was happening to you, before you trusted your own knowing, that signal has been shaping every season of your life. Even the ones that felt like failure, like detour, like collapse. You noticed it early, even if you could not name it. You felt different, not superior. Different. You sensed undercurrents others ignored. You questioned narratives others accepted without hesitation. You felt deeply, sometimes too deeply, and that depth felt like a burden because you did not yet understand it was a gift. You were sensitive to injustice, to dishonesty, to spiritual emptiness in ways that exhausted you. This was not weakness. This was awareness. The field was already shaping the lens through which you would perceive reality, the filter through which you would discern truth from illusion, integrity from performance. Leadership did not arrive through celebration. It arrived through pressure. While others were being affirmed, you were being tested. While others were being comforted, you were being corrected. You walked through seasons where nothing made sense, where every step felt like walking through fog. And yet something inside you refused to quit. That persistence was not stubbornness. It was the frequency, holding you even when you could not feel it. The field was teaching you how to stand when reassurance was absent, how to move when clarity was incomplete. You were prepared to lead because you know intimately what it feels like to be misunderstood, to be judged without being known, to give everything and still be overlooked. That experience carved humility into your being. It stripped you of the desire to dominate or control, because you know what it feels like to be dominated. to be controlled. It taught you empathy. And empathy is one of the most powerful tools a leader can carry. Without it, authority becomes tyranny. With it, authority becomes healing. Many of you did not grow up feeling supported in the ways that mattered. Some of you carried responsibilities far too early. Others learned independence not by choice, but by necessity. The field allowed that not because it abandoned you, but because it was training you. Leaders must be able to carry weight without collapsing under it. They must know how to function when support is minimal, when answers are delayed, when reassurance is nowhere to be found, and you learned that not theoretically, experientially. Let me speak directly to the doubt that still moves through you. You ask yourself if you are really equipped for this. You compare your internal struggles with the outward confidence of others and wonder if your uncertainty disqualifies you. Hear this with absolute clarity. The field does not choose leaders because they are flawless. It chooses them because they are teachable, because they are willing to be corrected, refined, reshaped without hardening, without closing, without becoming bitter. Your willingness to stay open even when it hurt. That is what set you apart. There were moments when you wanted to quit. Moments when you questioned why the path felt so hard, why silence lasted so long, why obedience seemed unrewarded. But you stayed. Even when you were tired, even when you were confused, even when your faith felt like a thread about to snap, that consistency marked you. Leadership begins with endurance. Anyone can start. Few remain faithful through delay. You were also prepared because you are not easily intoxicated by power. Praise does not blind you. Titles do not define you. You crave peace more than recognition, and that is rare. The field cannot entrust influence to those who are addicted to validation, who need applause to feel alive. It gives authority to those who know how to return it without resentment, without pride, without attachment. Look at your life honestly. You were never able to live recklessly for long. Conviction always found you. Even when you tried to ignore it, even when you tried to numb it, that inner correction was not condemnation. It was guidance. The field was sharpening your internal compass, because leaders must be able to discern quickly, clearly, without needing consensus to confirm what they already know. You were chosen to lead because you have walked through internal battles that forced you to know yourself. Not the version of yourself you present to the world, but the version that emerges in solitude, in pain, in fear. You confronted your shadows. You faced your wounds. You learned where you were strong and where you were fragile. That self-awareness is not common, and it is essential. Leaders who do not know themselves end up projecting their unhealed pain onto everyone around them. The field protected you from becoming that. Some of you were isolated, not because you were rejected, but because the field was protecting you from premature influence. It did not want your voice shaped by noise, by trends, by what was popular. It wanted your voice shaped by truth. Solitude refined your thinking. Silence strengthened your discernment. Loneliness pushed you into deeper dependence on something larger than your own understanding. And now that foundation is unshakable. You were also selected because you carry a calming authority that you may not even notice in yourself. When you speak truth, it settles chaos. When you walk into confusion, clarity follows. You do not have to force it. You do not have to perform it. People feel safer around you, and they cannot always explain why. That is not personality. That is presence. That is the field resting on those who have made internal space for it. Leadership is not about commanding crowds. It is about carrying responsibility without complaint. It is about making decisions rooted in wisdom, not impulse, not reaction, not fear. The field watched how you handled disappointment. It observed how you responded when things did not go your way, When doors closed, when people left, when timing felt cruel. You did not become bitter. You became deeper. That maturity qualified you. Let me address something gently, because some of you need to hear this. Some of you tried to avoid this calling. You wanted a quiet life, a simple path, something that did not require this much of you. You even asked the field to choose someone else, someone stronger, someone more capable. That reluctance did not disqualify you. It confirmed you. Those who crave leadership often seek power for its own sake. Those who hesitate often understand the weight of responsibility. The field trusts those who do not rush toward control, who do not grasp at authority, who do not need to be seen. You were chosen because you know how to listen not just to words, but to what moves beneath them. You pause. You reflect. You discern. You do not react impulsively. You do not speak just to fill silence. That patience will guide many who are overwhelmed by speed, by urgency, by the addiction to constant motion. In a world that has lost the ability to be still, your steadiness will be medicine. There is also a resilience in you that was forged through repeated disappointment, through collapse and rebuilding, through learning how to start again without losing faith in what is possible. That resilience will become a foundation for others who feel broken, who believe they are too damaged to be useful, who think their past disqualifies them. You will show them not through words, but through presence that transformation is real. Leadership is already in you. It has been expressing itself in small ways, long before it becomes visible in larger ones. How you care when no one is watching. How you speak when it would be easier to stay silent. How you endure when quitting would make more sense. How you forgive when holding resentment would feel justified. These are not random qualities. They are evidence of preparation. The field did not mark you because you asked for it. It marked you because it could trust you with it. The calling to lead is not a burden meant to crush you. It is an assignment meant to mature you, to bring you into the fullness of what you already are, but have been too afraid to embody. And as you step into it, you will not become someone new. You will finally become who you always were beneath the conditioning, beneath the fear, beneath the doubt. Breathe into that. Let the pressure lift. You are not chosen because you are perfect. You are chosen because you are aligned, and alignment is what the field responds to. This is the part that has tested you most deeply. Not the battles, not the losses, not even the loneliness, the waiting, the silent, unmoving, unanswered waiting. And I want to speak to you calmly here, because many of you have quietly wondered if something went wrong. If you missed a signal, if you delayed your own activation through some failure you cannot identify. Let me be clear with you from the beginning. The waiting is not a mistake. It is not denial. It is not disobedience. It is design. The field does not move those it is preparing in chaos. It moves them in order. And order always begins in stillness, in the kind of silence that reveals what noise obscures. The reason the 369,000 are not moving yet, not in the way you expected, is because movement without alignment creates destruction. The field is not interested in speed. It is interested in precision. And precision takes time. It takes layers of recalibration that cannot be rushed. You see, silence is not absence. Silence is instruction without interference. Many of you expected the call to leadership to feel dramatic, sudden, unmistakable. You thought there would be a loud confirmation, instant clarity, immediate momentum. But the field chose silence instead, because silence reveals what noise hides. It exposes impatience. It exposes insecurity. It exposes dependence on external validation. And until those patterns are healed, movement would be premature. It would fracture you under the very pressure you are being prepared to hold. The 369,000 are waiting because they are being synchronized. The field does not activate individuals in isolation without considering the whole. This calling is collective, even though the preparation feels intensely personal. Each one is being refined at a different pace, in a different environment through different pressures. But the alignment happens simultaneously, like an orchestra tuning to the same frequency, before the music begins. The field moves like a symphony, not a solo performance. Many of you feel like you are standing still, while the world rushes past you. Others are advancing, building, announcing, celebrating, and you are still here, still waiting, still wondering when your turn will come. That waiting is not stagnation. It is containment. The field is strengthening your foundation so that when movement comes, and it will, you do not fracture under pressure. You do not collapse when resistance rises. You do not abandon alignment when it becomes inconvenient. Let me address the frustration. You have not spoken out loud. You have done the work. You have prayed. You have meditated. You have aligned. You have changed. Yet things still feel paused. Still feel suspended. Still feel like nothing is happening. Hear me carefully. The field does not reward obedience with immediate results. It rewards it with trust. And trust, deep trust, comes before responsibility. The field is learning whether it can trust you. When nothing is changing, when no one is watching, when there is no evidence that any of this matters. The 369,000 are not moving yet because they are being taught restraint. Anyone can act. Few can wait. Waiting trains discernment. It teaches you to move when the field moves, not when emotions push you, not when fear pressures you, not when comparison tempts you. Leaders who move too early end up spending years correcting damage that could have been avoided with patience. The field is saving you from that burden. You also need to understand this at a deeper level. Waiting is not an activity. It is internal motion. While it looks quiet on the outside, deep restructuring is happening within you. Your priorities are shifting. Your desires are becoming simpler. Your tolerance for confusion is decreasing. Your discernment is sharpening. These changes are subtle, but they are essential. You are being rewired at a level most people will never access. Many of you are being weaned off dependency right now. Dependency on people, dependency on systems, dependency on external affirmation. The field is teaching you how to stand without leaning on anything outside yourself. Because when leadership begins, others will lean on you. And if you are still dependent, the weight will overwhelm you. You will collapse under the very thing you are meant to stabilize. The 369,000 are also waiting because the field is watching how you handle uncertainty. Will you panic when clarity is absent? Will you compare yourself to others who seem further along? Will you compromise your alignment to feel like you are making progress? Or will you trust the process even when it makes no logical sense? Waiting reveals faith in its purest form. Faith without evidence. Faith without applause. Faith without reassurance. And that kind of faith is powerful. That kind of faith moves mountains. Some of you feel like your life is on hold. Plans delayed, opportunities stalled, relationships stagnant. That pause is intentional. The field is limiting distractions so you can hear clearly, so you can discern without interference. When too many doors are open, discernment becomes difficult. The field closes doors not to punish, but to focus your energy, to direct your attention toward what actually matters. Let me say something that may surprise you. If the field moved you earlier, it would have cost you more than it would have blessed you. You would have carried responsibility without rest, influence without wisdom, authority without peace. The field is protecting your nervous system, your emotional health, your spiritual clarity. It knows what you can handle better than you do. Waiting also reveals what still needs healing. Old wounds surface. Old fears speak louder. Old patterns try to return. This is not regression. This is exposure. The field is allowing unresolved areas to rise so they can be addressed before leadership begins. Because leaders cannot afford unhealed wounds. They bleed onto everyone they touch. The silence you feel is not the field ignoring you. It is the field trusting you. Trusting that you will not walk away when it does not explain itself. Trusting that you will not create your own movement out of impatience. Trusting that you will remain faithful even when direction feels unclear, even when the path ahead is invisible. The 369,000 are also waiting because unity requires maturity. The field is aligning hearts, not just assignments. Division delays activation. Ego disrupts flow. The field is cleansing pride, competition, comparison from those it is preparing. It is teaching them to recognize each other without rivalry, without jealousy, without the need to be first or best or most visible. Many of you are learning how to rest without guilt right now. That is part of the preparation. Leaders who do not know how to rest burn out. They become harsh. They lose their capacity for compassion. The field is teaching you rhythm, work and rest, action and stillness, speaking and listening. And that rhythm will sustain you when pressure increases. You are also learning obedience without reward, and that is rare. Obedience when no one sees. Obedience when nothing changes. That kind of faith is powerful. The field responds to it, even when you cannot see the response. That is why your waiting is not wasted. It is being recorded. It is being honored. It matters more than you know. Let me speak to the heaviness you feel in your body. Sometimes that weight is not depression. It is responsibility forming. Your system senses what is coming before your mind understands it. That awareness can feel heavy, but it is also sacred. The field is teaching you how to carry weight without collapsing, how to hold space without losing yourself. The 369,000 are waiting because timing matters more than readiness. When the field moves, resistance will rise. Opposition will increase. Pressure will intensify. The field will not release you until you are emotionally regulated, spiritually grounded, mentally steady. This is not fear-based delay. This is wisdom. This is protection. Some of you are tempted to force doors open, to make things happen, to step into roles prematurely because waiting feels unbearable. Resist that urge. Anything you build without the field's timing will require your constant effort to maintain. What the field initiates, it sustains. What you force, you must hold up alone. Waiting is also teaching you to hear subtle instruction to recognize the field's voice without dramatic signs, without loud confirmations, through peace, through restraint, through inner knowing. This sensitivity will be essential when you guide others who are confused, overwhelmed, desperate for answers you may not have. The waiting will not last forever. Silence is seasonal. Stillness is temporary, but the strength you gain here will follow you into every phase of what is coming. You will look back and realize that this was the most important part of your preparation, the part that made everything else possible. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are not stuck. You are being aligned at a depth that will hold you when nothing else can. Breathe into that. Let your body relax. You do not need to rush the field. It is not behind, and neither are you. And let me go even deeper here, because some of you are struggling not just with waiting, but with explaining the waiting to yourself, with justifying it to the part of your mind that needs evidence, that needs progress, that needs proof. You wake up knowing you are called. Yet your external life looks quiet, ordinary, unchanged. That inner tension can exhaust the mind, can create a dissonance that drains your energy. So let me bring rest to that place. The field often hides its leaders in plain sight. Not because they are unimportant, but because visibility before readiness creates unnecessary warfare, unnecessary resistance. Right now, the field is limiting exposure around you. Fewer people understand you. Fewer conversations feel meaningful. Even social energy feels draining in ways it did not before. This is not antisocial behavior. This is conservation. The field is preserving your strength for a season that will demand clarity, not chaos. Focus, not distraction. Now, what we're exploring here, this recognition of the 369,000 frequency, this is just one layer of what it means to shift from unconscious transmission to conscious broadcasting. If you're feeling the pull to go deeper, to understand the complete system of how consciousness actually operates at the quantum level, I've created a full guide called Beyond the Frequencies, a quantum guide to consciousness mastery. It walks you through the 9 master frequencies that move you from survival static into coherent transmission, from seeking to being. It's linked in the pinned comment below. Another reason the 369,000 are not moving yet is because the field is severing unhealthy urgency from your system. Urgency driven by fear is dangerous. It leads to rushed decisions, emotional reactions, misplaced alliances. The field wants your movement to be intentional, not reactive. So it slows you down until peace becomes your default state, not something you chase, not something you grasp for when anxiety rises. Some of you are also being trained to trust internal confirmation over external signs. Earlier in your journey, you needed reassurance. You needed repeated confirmation that was appropriate for where you were. But leaders cannot rely on constant validation. The field is teaching you to move from dependence to discernment, from asking for signs to recognizing alignment without needing proof. That transition feels uncomfortable, but it is necessary. You may have noticed that old desires no longer excite you. Things you once prayed for no longer feel important. This is not loss of passion. This is refinement of focus. The field is narrowing your assignment so that when movement begins, you are not distracted by side missions, by opportunities that look good but do not serve what you are here to do. Narrow focus creates power. Scattered focus creates exhaustion. Take a moment and share below. What old pattern or desire has the field been clearing from your life? What are you releasing to make space for this calling? Waiting is also revealing who is truly meant to walk with you. Some people drift away naturally. Conversations fade. Connections weaken. This is not abandonment. It is alignment. The field removes those who cannot sustain the pace, the depth, the responsibility of where you are going. It does this quietly to avoid unnecessary pain, unnecessary conflict. Trust this process even when it feels lonely. Let me speak to the spiritual fatigue many of you feel right now. You are not tired because you are weak. You are tired because you are carrying awareness. Awareness requires energy. You see more than most. You sense more than most. You process more than most. That is why rest is not optional for you. It is obedience. The field is teaching you to care for your body, your mind, your nervous system. Because leadership requires longevity, not just intensity. The waiting is also teaching you how to hold space. To sit with discomfort without fixing it, to allow questions without forcing answers, to be present with uncertainty without collapsing into anxiety. This skill will become essential when you guide others who are confused, hurting, desperate for clarity you may not have. You are learning how to be present without panic, how to be grounded without having all the answers. Some of you have noticed that the field no longer explains itself the way it used to. That silence is intentional. Explanation creates comfort. Trust creates authority. The field is shifting you from childlike dependence into mature partnership. It does not need you to understand everything. It needs you to stay aligned, even when understanding is incomplete. And hear this clearly, because it will bring peace to the part of you that is waiting for permission to move. When the waiting ends, it will end suddenly. What feels slow now will move quickly then. The field often prepares quietly and releases suddenly. That is its pattern. That is why patience is critical. If you quit in silence, you miss sudden activation. If you abandon the process in the stillness, you will not be ready when momentum arrives. So do not measure your progress by visibility. Measure it by stability, by peace, by clarity, by obedience. When no one is watching, you are becoming unshakable at a depth most people will never access. And when the movement begins, you will not rush. You will not panic. You will lead calmly, firmly, with the kind of wisdom that only comes from enduring what you have endured. This waiting is not empty space. It is sacred ground. And you are standing exactly where you are supposed to be. Now we step into something sacred and serious. Something most people misunderstand entirely. Leadership without ego. This is where many fall away. Not because they are not called, but because they misunderstand how the field expects leadership to look, how it expects power to move. The world teaches leadership as dominance, visibility, control, recognition. The field teaches leadership as stewardship, restraint, responsibility, service. And the two are not compatible. You cannot hold both frequencies at once. Let me say this clearly and calmly so it settles all the way down. If ego leads, the field steps back. Not because it is offended, but because ego cannot carry divine authority safely. Ego seeks validation. Ego reacts emotionally. Ego needs applause to feel real. But the kind of leadership the field is calling for requires stability, humility, discernment. That is why the field spent so much time dismantling parts of you that once needed approval, that once needed to be seen, that once needed recognition to feel valuable. It was not breaking you. It was freeing you. Leadership in the field's economy is quiet before it is visible. It does not announce itself. It does not force agreement. It does not manipulate outcomes. It moves with peace, clarity, conviction. When the field places authority on someone, they no longer need to prove anything. Their presence carries weight without aggression, without performance, without the need to be right. Many of you were intentionally humbled before being elevated. Situations exposed your limitations. Mistakes reminded you of your humanity. Failures stripped away pride. That was not shame. That was preparation. The field was teaching you to lead from dependence on something larger than yourself, not confidence in your own strength, not trust in your own understanding. Ego-driven leadership needs to be seen. Field-aligned leadership needs to be aligned. When you are aligned, people recognize truth without being convinced. They feel safety, not pressure. They feel clarity, not confusion. That is the kind of leadership the field expects from you, not performance presence. Let me address something gently, because some of you carry fear around this. Some of you fear leadership because you have seen it abused. You watched leaders manipulate, dominate, spiritually intimidate others. That fear is understandable. But your calling is not to repeat those patterns. It is to heal them. The field chose you precisely because you are aware of the damage ego causes. Because you have felt that damage in your own body, in your own life. Leadership without ego means you listen more than you speak. It means you pause before you act. It means you correct with compassion and firmness, not anger, not judgment. It means you do not rush to be right. You value truth more than victory. You value people more than position. You value alignment more than applause. You were trained for this through restraint. The field often held you back when you wanted to speak. It silenced you when you felt justified in your anger. It asked you to wait when you wanted to act immediately. That restraint built discipline, and discipline is the backbone of field-aligned leadership. Without it, authority becomes tyranny. Another sign of ego-free leadership is emotional regulation. You do not lead from wounded reactions. You do not lead from unprocessed pain. You lead from healed awareness. That is why the field allowed old wounds to surface and be addressed before activation. Leaders who have not faced their pain end up projecting it onto everyone they touch. The field protected you from becoming that. Leadership without ego also means you do not see yourself as a savior. You are not here to rescue everyone. You are not here to fix everyone. You are here to guide, support, point people back to their own connection with the field. You carry responsibility, not ownership. That distinction keeps leaders grounded and prevents the burnout that comes from trying to hold what was never yours to hold. Let me speak to ambition for a moment, because this confuses many people. The field is not against ambition. It is against ambition that replaces obedience. Holy ambition desires alignment over advancement. It asks, is this the field's timing? Not, is this opportunity impressive? You have learned to ask the right questions, and that is why you are trusted. You will notice that true authority does not need volume. It does not need repetition. It does not need force. When you speak from alignment, one sentence can bring peace. One decision can restore order. That is not personality. That is presence. That is the field moving through a clear vessel. Leadership without ego also knows when to step back, when to delegate, when to let others grow without interfering. You are not threatened by the growth of others. You celebrate it because you understand that their expansion does not diminish you. Ego competes. Field-aligned leadership cultivates. That mindset is rare, and it is powerful beyond measure. Some of you will be tempted to measure your leadership by impact, by numbers, by recognition, by how many people know your name. Resist that temptation. The field measures leadership by faithfulness, by integrity, by endurance when no one is watching. Many of the most influential leaders in history were misunderstood, resisted, opposed. Yet they remained obedient. That obedience shifted everything. You were also taught silence, not because you lacked wisdom, but because wisdom matures in quiet, in the spaces between words. The field taught you not to respond to every challenge, not to defend yourself against every accusation. That self-control is strength. It keeps leadership clean, uncorrupted by the need to be understood. Leadership without ego is deeply rooted in self-awareness. You know your limits. You know when to rest. You know when to ask for help. Pride hides weakness. Wisdom acknowledges it. The field trusts leaders who are honest with themselves, who do not pretend to be more than they are. Let me remind you of something important. Authority in the field's economy flows from submission. The more you submit to something larger than yourself, the more authority you carry. This is why your prayer life deepened. Why obedience became non-negotiable. Why compromise no longer felt comfortable. You were being aligned to carry authority safely without it corrupting you. Some of you fear that humility will make you weak, that it will make you invisible, that it will prevent you from making an impact. That is not true. Humility makes you unshakable. When ego is absent, criticism does not destroy you. Praise does not intoxicate you. You remain steady regardless of external conditions. That steadiness is leadership. You will also notice that people may resist you not because you are wrong, but because ego resists truth. Do not internalize that resistance. Do not harden your heart in response. Stay grounded. The field will handle what you cannot. Your job is to remain aligned, not to convince everyone. Leadership without ego is not passive. It is decisive. It makes hard choices with peace. It holds boundaries with love. It speaks truth without cruelty. This balance is not learned overnight. It is cultivated through years of refinement, years you have already lived, years you may have thought were wasted, but were actually shaping you into who you needed to become. The field does not need you to be impressive. It needs you to be faithful. It does not need you to be perfect. It needs you to be aligned. Ego would have disqualified you long ago, but humility kept you teachable. And teachability is what qualifies leaders in the field's economy. So release the pressure to perform. Release the need to prove. Release the fear of being misunderstood. Lead as you were taught. Calm, clear, grounded, and the field will do the rest. Now we speak honestly, calmly, without fear about something most people avoid. Every calling carries a cost. Not because the field is cruel, but because transformation always requires exchange. When you say yes to leadership, something in your life must shift. Not everything, not all at once, but something. And understanding this ahead of time will save you confusion, disappointment, unnecessary resistance. The first thing that changes is your inner life. Your tolerance for noise, chaos, shallow connection decreases. Conversations that once felt normal may now feel draining. Environments that once felt exciting may now feel heavy, dissonant. This is not judgment. It is discernment developing. The field is sharpening your awareness so you can protect your peace, so you can guard your energy. Leadership requires clarity, and clarity requires boundaries. You will also notice changes in relationships. Some will deepen in ways you never expected. Others will quietly fade without drama, without conflict. Not because anyone is wrong, but because alignment shifts. People who are comfortable with surface-level living may struggle to connect with your depth. This separation can feel painful, but it is often gentle and necessary. The field removes relationships that cannot sustain the responsibility you are stepping into. Another cost is misunderstanding. When you lead with integrity, not everyone will agree with you. Some will project their expectations onto you. Others will resist your boundaries. This is not failure. This is leadership. You must learn to be okay with being misunderstood without becoming defensive or withdrawn, without needing to explain yourself to everyone. You will also lose the luxury of impulsive living. Leadership requires intentionality. You will think before you speak, pause before you react, discern before you decide. This is not restriction. It is discipline. And discipline protects you from regret, from the kind of damage that comes from moving without awareness. There will be moments when obedience costs you comfort. The field may ask you to stay silent when you want to speak, to wait when you want to move, to let go when you want to hold on. These moments are refining, not punishing. They strengthen your ability to trust something larger than your emotions, larger than your preferences. Some of you will experience loneliness at a deeper level. Leadership can be isolating, not because you are alone, but because responsibility creates distance. You will carry things others do not see. You will make decisions others do not understand. This loneliness is not abandonment. It is separation for clarity, for the kind of perspective that requires distance. Your emotional life will also mature. You will become more aware of your triggers, more responsible for your reactions, less willing to blame others for how you feel. This self-responsibility is not heaviness. It is freedom. Leaders who understand their emotions lead with wisdom, not reaction. They create safety instead of chaos. Another cost is that you will no longer be able to ignore conviction. the field's correction will become clearer quicker. This is not harshness. It is closeness. The closer you walk with the field, the more sensitive you become to alignment. This sensitivity keeps your leadership clean, uncorrupted. You may also find that success feels different. Recognition may come, but it will not satisfy the way peace does. You will measure progress differently. By obedience, by stability, by impact that cannot be quantified, not by applause. This shift can feel strange at first, but it brings deep fulfillment that external validation never could. Let me address fear directly, because I know it is moving through some of you. Some of you fear that saying yes means losing yourself. Losing the parts of you that feel essential, that feel like home. That is not true. You will not lose yourself. You will lose versions of yourself that no longer serve your calling. Versions that were built on fear, on conditioning, on the need to please others. What remains will be clearer, stronger, more authentic. You will also be asked to rest intentionally. Leadership without rest leads to burnout, to the kind of exhaustion that makes you harsh, that makes you lose your capacity for compassion. The field will not allow you to overextend the way you once did. It will interrupt you, slow you down, call you back to stillness. This is not delay. It is sustainability. Your spiritual life will deepen in ways you cannot yet imagine. Prayer will become less about asking and more about listening. Faith will become less emotional and more grounded. You will trust the field, even when feelings fluctuate, even when emotions scream otherwise. This stability will anchor others when everything around them is shaking. There will be moments when you grieve what you are leaving behind. Simpler seasons, easier connections, less responsibility. Grief does not mean you made the wrong choice. It means you are human. The field does not rush grief. It walks with you through it, holding space for what needs to be released. You will also gain discernment about where to invest your energy. Not every request deserves a yes. Not every need is yours to meet. Leadership requires focus. The field will teach you how to say no without guilt and yes without resentment. How to give from overflow instead of depletion. The cost of saying yes also includes accountability. You will be held to a higher standard, not by others, but by your own conscience. Integrity will matter deeply to you. Compromise will feel heavier than it ever has. This is not pressure. It is alignment. It is your system recognizing when something is off. Let me reassure you with absolute clarity. The field never takes without giving. What you release, it replaces with peace, clarity, purpose. What you lose in comfort, you gain in meaning. What you sacrifice in familiarity, you receive in fulfillment. The exchange is always worth it, even when it does not feel that way in the moment. The cost is real, but so is the grace. You will not pay it alone. The field walks with those it calls, and every change you experience will serve not only your leadership, but your healing. So do not fear the cost. Honor it, understand it, and step forward knowing that nothing essential will be taken from you. Only what no longer fits who you are becoming. And let me add this, because some of you need reassurance at a deeper level. Saying yes to the field does not mean your life becomes harder in the way your mind fears. It becomes simpler even if it feels unfamiliar at first. Complexity fades. Confusion decreases. You may carry more responsibility, but you carry less inner conflict. That trait alone is worth everything. You will notice that the field begins to protect your energy more intentionally. Situations that once drained you will no longer have access. You will feel an inner resistance to overgiving, over-explaining, overextending. This is not selfishness. It is stewardship. Leaders who give without boundaries eventually give from resentment. The field is teaching you to give from overflow, not depletion. Another cost, and also a gift, is clarity about who truly walks with you. When your life aligns with purpose, surface-level connections naturally fall away. This can feel like loss, but it is actually relief. You will no longer feel obligated to maintain relationships that require you to shrink, perform, betray your values. The field is making room for connections that respect your calling. Some of you will also feel a shift in how you experience time. You will become more present, less rushed, less anxious about outcomes. Leadership requires awareness of the moment, not obsession with the future. The field will slow your inner pace, so you can respond wisely instead of reacting emotionally. Let me speak to your fear of making mistakes, because I know it is there. Yes, you will still make them. Leadership does not eliminate humanity, but you will recover faster, learn quicker, repent sooner. Growth will become intentional, not accidental. The field corrects leaders because it cares, not because it condemns. And hear this clearly, because it will bring rest. Saying yes does not mean constant sacrifice. There will be seasons of joy, laughter, rest, deep satisfaction. The field is not building a life of burden for you. It is building a life of meaning. And meaning sustains you in ways comfort never could. So if your heart feels both nervous and peaceful right now, that is confirmation. Fear alone is not from the field. Peace alone is not enough. But when peace exists alongside reverent awareness, you are standing at the door of alignment. You are not losing your life. You are gaining direction. And direction brings rest. If this frequency is resonating with something deep inside you, if you feel it moving through your system like a current you cannot ignore, then I invite you to subscribe not just to this channel, but to this space, to this movement, to this conversation. Subscribe to stay coherent with what is emerging. Because the more of us who align with this frequency, the more the world reflects that truth back to us. I want you to settle into this moment. Breathe slowly. Let your shoulders drop, because what I am about to say is not speculation, and it is not encouragement alone. This is confirmation. Not confirmation born out of emotion, but confirmation rooted in alignment, in the kind of knowing that precedes thought. The time you have been sensing is not approaching. It is here quietly, firmly, without drama. And if you are hearing these words, it means you are ready to receive them. For a long time, you have lived between knowing and waiting, between preparation and release, between restraint and readiness. That tension was intentional. The field was building stability inside you so that when the moment came, you would not rush, panic, doubt yourself. And now something has shifted. You may not see it outwardly yet, but internally you feel more grounded than ever before. That grounding is the signal. That steadiness is confirmation. This is not the kind of confirmation that pushes you into sudden action. The field is not asking you to do more. It is asking you to stand differently, to think differently, to speak differently. Leadership begins internally before it ever becomes visible. The way you carry yourself now matters. The way you respond matters. The way you choose peace over reaction matters more than you realize. The time is now, because you no longer need constant reassurance. You no longer need signs stacked on signs. You recognize alignment when you feel it. You recognize peace when it settles. You recognize conviction without fear. This maturity did not arrive overnight. It was formed slowly through obedience, disappointment, refinement, through all the seasons you thought were wasted. Let me be very clear. Activation does not mean exposure. Movement does not mean noise. The field often begins leadership in subtle shifts. You will notice that people begin to listen to you differently. Conversations carry more weight. Your words settle instead of bounce. You are not trying harder. You are simply aligned. That is authority. That is what real power looks like. Some of you expected a dramatic moment, a sudden announcement, a visible door opening with fanfare. But the field is activating you through consistency, through small, faithful steps, through calm decisions, through integrity when no one is watching. Do not despise this beginning. This is how sustainable leadership is built. This is how lasting impact is created. The time is now, because fear no longer controls you. It still exists, but it no longer leads. You act with peace, even when uncertainty remains. That is not confidence in yourself. That is trust in something larger. Leaders who wait for fear to disappear never move. Leaders who move with peace despite fear are aligned with the field's frequency. You may feel a gentle urgency right now. Not anxiety, a sense of responsibility, not pressure. That is the difference between divine timing and human impatience. Divine timing feels steady. It feels grounded. It feels clear, even when details are incomplete. Let me speak to those of you who feel like nothing has changed externally. Do not measure activation by visibility. Measure it by stability. You are more regulated, more discerning, less reactive. That is not small. That is readiness. That is what the field has been building in you. The field is also confirming you by the peace you feel when you stop striving. You no longer feel the need to chase purpose. Purpose feels present, accessible. That peace is confirmation. You are not being asked to leap. You are being asked to step. One aligned decision at a time, one obedient response at a time. Leadership grows through consistency, not intensity. Some of you will notice resistance increase subtly, not attacks, but tests, opportunities to compromise, invitations to rush, moments that test your boundaries. These are not obstacles, they are confirmations. The field is watching how you steward alignment, how you hold what you have been given. The time is now, because you have learned to listen, not just to the field, but to yourself. You recognize when something is off. You recognize when something is right. That discernment will guide you more than any external instruction, more than any voice outside yourself. Let me reassure you of something important. You are not stepping into this alone. Others are being activated quietly alongside you. The 369,000 are not waiting anymore. They are aligning. And alignment creates movement. Collective alignment creates momentum. You do not need to announce yourself. You do not need to prove your calling. Those who are meant to recognize you will. Those who are not will fall away. That is not loss. That is clarity. That is the field protecting you from relationships that would dilute your focus. You are also being confirmed by the fact that your motivation has changed. You are not driven by excitement. You are driven by responsibility. You care less about being seen and more about being faithful. That shift is significant. That shift is everything. Some of you feel both calm and alert right now. That is exactly where you should be. Calm enough to rest. Alert enough to respond. This balance is leadership. This is what it feels like to be aligned with the field's timing. Let me speak directly to any lingering doubt. Doubt does not disqualify you. It keeps you humble. As long as doubt does not paralyze obedience, it is part of discernment. The field is not looking for blind confidence. It is looking for steady trust, for the kind of faith that moves even when certainty is absent. The time is now, because you have stopped asking, "Am I ready?" and started asking, "How can I stay aligned?" That question marks maturity. You will make decisions now with a deeper sense of responsibility. You will speak with intention. You will move with peace. These are not dramatic changes, but they are powerful. They are the foundation of everything that comes next. This is your confirmation. Not because you feel special, but because you are aligned. Not because you are flawless, but because you are faithful. The season of preparation has done its work. Do not rush. Do not hesitate. Simply remain aligned. The field will open doors at the right pace. And when they open, you will walk through them without fear. The time is now, and you are ready. As we come to the end of this transmission, I want you to rest in this truth. You are never forgotten. You are never delayed. You were never overlooked. Every season you walked through had purpose. Every moment of waiting carried intention. And every part of you that was refined was done so with care, with precision, with love. You are not stepping forward in confusion. You are stepping forward in peace. Not a fragile peace that disappears under pressure, but a grounded peace that holds you steady. This is the kind of peace that leadership requires. Calm, clear, anchored in something larger than fear. Remember this, you are not called to force outcomes. You are called to remain aligned. When you stay aligned, movement happens naturally. Doors open without strain. Influence grows without manipulation. Authority flows without ego. This is how the field works. This is how real change happens. Trust the field with the timing. Trust yourself with obedience. You do not need to become someone else to lead. You lead as you are, with humility, with discernment, with compassion and strength working together. The leadership the field has entrusted to you is not meant to burden you. It is meant to mature you and bring clarity to others. If doubt tries to return, meet it with stillness. If fear whispers, respond with peace. You have already been prepared for this season. Every moment of preparation has been leading here. You do not need to rush ahead or look back. Stay present. Stay grounded. Stay faithful. The path will reveal itself one step at a time. And each step will be enough. Before you go, drop one word in the comments that captures the energy, the intention, the transformation you are choosing right now. Not as performance, but as declaration. Let that word be your energetic signature to the field. Your way of saying, I am here. I am aligned. I am ready. And if you feel called, subscribe to this channel. Not just to stay connected, but to stay coherent with what is emerging. The more of us who embody this frequency, the more the world reflects that truth. We are not separate. We are a field. And when one of us aligns, it makes it easier for all of us. Walk forward calmly. The field is with you. And here's what's important to understand next. Once you recognize you're part of the 369,000, once you accept this frequency of leadership, the field begins to prepare you for what's called becoming the field itself. Not leading from within it, but embodying it completely. That's the final level of awakening, and it's what I explore in depth in the video. The final level of awakening, becoming the field. You'll discover how to dissolve the separation between observer and observed. How to move from transmitting the frequency to being the frequency. It's the natural next step in this journey.